Hello, Newburgh. Pastor Steve here for our Monday Minute on May the 25th, 2020. We want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day out there. If you're like me, I use this weekend to get a lot of yard work done, and perhaps maybe you're doing the same thing. Or perhaps you're taking some time to celebrate with your family, enjoying the nice weather that we're finally getting here, and having a good barbecue, maybe a few friends. Remember, no more than 10, and make sure to keep your safe social distancing. But however you're celebrating, let's take time to do it safely, and of course, let's remember the reason that we can celebrate and honor those persons who have given their lives in service to our country so that we can enjoy our freedoms. In that spirit, I'm going to be getting back to my yard work here in a little bit, and some of you have other things to do too, so I've got a short Monday Minute. The only announcement that I want to make is to join us tomorrow evening for our town hall at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live. Myself and our Director of Music and Worship Arts, Kyle Berry, will be there to answer your questions and to share our vision for what will be happening as we look at opening up in-person worship here in the next couple of weeks, if it is possible. We'll caution you that we're not going to have entirely concrete plans because things are changing and things are not going to go back to the way they are, but we'll have this opportunity to roll out what some of our plans are, give you some timetables, and answer your questions. So again, join us tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. For our devotional today, I was focusing on Matthew 16. And in Matthew 16, Jesus and Peter have this exchange. And in the 13th verse, Jesus starts asking the disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And then ultimately Peter starts answering with a lot of different things that people are saying. And then Jesus says, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter confesses that Jesus is the Messiah. And Jesus says that he is rightly answered and that he is blessed and he's no longer going to be called Simon, but Peter, the rock, and on this rock he will build his church. But then in verse 21, Jesus goes on to talk about how he will be handed over to the authorities, he'll be crucified and die and be buried, and then on the third day rise again to fully accomplish his mission. And this very same Peter, who confessed Jesus as the Messiah, pulls Jesus aside and starts to rebuke him, the scripture tells us, that this must never happen to him. And then we get the famous line that Jesus says back to Peter, where he says, "Get behind me, Satan." But that's not the important line. The important line, I think, more than anything else, is you're focused on human things and not on divine things. I think this is pretty important because right now we're having a confusion around what it means to focus on human things and divine things, particularly in this past weekend as we had the president talking about churches being declared essential and that they should be open on Sundays or other houses of worship for other faiths when they get together. But in a lot of ways, that's a very human approach to what is something greater than just a physical building. Because the church isn't a building. The church is all of us. The church is a people. We've been setting our minds on those human things, but more particularly on human beings who we view as God's creation, who are in need of our help, particularly in this time of coronavirus. But we're also setting our mind on divine things by helping our fellow human beings who are in need the most. We've been continuing to support the Noah Project, our non-food pantry, as I mentioned in the sermon yesterday. But we're also doing things to help our fellow human beings here in the state of Michigan who have been devastated by those floods in Midland, a community that I had once served and know a lot of those folks there. So we're collecting money for donations for flood buckets and for hygiene kits that are going to be so needed there in the days and weeks to come. Those are the divine things that we as a church don't need a building to be in or even need to meet together in order to help to accomplish that goal. Of course, I'm not diminishing the importance of being able to meet together and to share with one another. That's part of what it means to be a community. But the other thing that it means to be a community is to take care of one another. And right now, the best way that we can take care of one another is by staying apart and staying safe so that we are protecting especially the most vulnerable among us, but all of us if we've experienced so much loss of life. But it's also acknowledging that life in the world goes on and our presence still needs to be there. So in this week to come, as we enter into our last week of May, and then we come to next Sunday, which is Pentecost Sunday, the birth of the church, and we'll be starting a new series called A Leader Like Peter. And we'll be talking about how Peter has these things to say with Jesus, but how he becomes a great leader and does set his mind on divine things and the building of the church as we go forward in the season of Pentecost. So we look forward to bringing that to you then. But in this week, we want you to focus on how it is that we can best serve our fellow human beings, but also how we can do so in a way that honors God and helps us to show others that we are followers of Jesus Christ. So let's set our minds on those things this week. Enjoy the holiday today, and let's remember to continue to be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow night for our town hall meeting.